I've watched so many kids just get spoiled, and I'm watching your kid doesn't have to work, but he does. He has to work.
He
'Cause
kind of
that's
does have to work.
he kinda does have to work because that is the condition in which you are raising tough, resilient kids that in life, you can have nice things, but they're not free. Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Maverick Entrepreneur, and I am excited today. So whatever you're doing, don't be distracted. If you're driving, you might need to pull over for this episode, or if you're in a sensitive mood, you might not want to watch this. We are going to get down to hardcore tactics on life, family, being successful, how to be an entrepreneur in this day and age and still raise kids that love their family, that love Jesus, and aren't communist, which is a unicorn. So, hope you're ready for it. With me is my new friend and someone I really look up to and respect for multiple reasons, Robert Colucci. That's right. You heard the last name. He is Italian. Everyone I've learned, I didn't know this before, there is a difference between pure bloods and just people that say they're Italian. I married an Italian, but she's not a pure blood. Robert's a pure blood. And we're going to talk about that because now that I know the difference, they just think different. So it's going to be a wild episode. Welcome, Robert, to the show.
Thank you.
Do you even know what's about to happen?
No, I have no idea.
I know. That's why I love it. I know you were hitting up my PA trying to figure out what was going to happen, and I purposely
did not answer the questions.
Here's why. I always like things to be as authentic as possible.
Keep it
and
fresh.
I realized that when I watch these podcasts, and I could tell they were scripted, or it looked like people behind the scenes were feeding them answers, and everything was too polished.
Okay.
I don't like polished.
Okay.
I'm not polished. I teach seminars not polished. Life is real and it happens in real time. And sometimes when you're going into a business thing, what the outcome's going to be. And sometimes you go in and you're just swinging. And you don't know, but I know that's the difference between successful entrepreneurs and ones that are not. They can think on their feet. They know how to actually process and think well. And I've watched you just over the last couple years, and it's been fascinating to me. And the reason why I wanted you on the show today is actually, one, I know that you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You've worked hard to get to where you're at. You're very successful, which I admire. And it's not like you won the lotto and got there. You actually have a philosophy. And the way that I watch you is even more fascinating because I'm raising 3 kids. I'm well behind you, but you're about to marry off your second daughter.
Amen.
Amen. So you've already been down the road once, and I want to talk about in this episode really your mentality. I have a couple pet peeves that I think you can help me with. So this podcast is really going to be like counseling for me.
Shoot.
And instead of me having to go pay a counselor, I figured, why not do a podcast and we'll just work it out. But what I love is being myself a Christian, being raised in a Christian family. I watched my dad, who I really respect. He was graduated high school at 16, went on to Cal State, Berkeley, or University of Berkeley. Sorry, Dad. And, one of the smartest men I know. But I watched my dad make more money and lose more money than any man I've ever met. And I lose $100, I get a little tweak. Like, I just lost $100. My dad lost $12 million. And he did it with the philosophy that a good Christian might have. I just got to turn the other cheek, son. I'm like, no, Dad, you got taken advantage of. And he didn't want to sue. He didn't want to entangle in this fight. And I watched that happen to him multiple times, and it crushed my dad. And I don't think my dad ever recovered. And he's one of the most brilliant men I know. So I'm watching as I get older, Christians that in the marketplace get their butt kicked because of a skewed perspective. And then I've heard you speak multiple times to the point where I know some people like, oh, they don't even hire people of the world, because they're going to hire someone that's a Christian. And I'm like, and I'm a pastor now, so it bugs me because I go back and forth going, yeah, you want that, but if they suck at their job. So I know that you have strong beliefs about that or opinions about it. You're also a biblical scholar. You just taught at our Awaken You, dropped some massive knowledge. And I was getting your highlight reel the other night, and it was phenomenal. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how do you keep a family unit together as tight as you have. I know that you've adopted some kids. So you've been in the adoption world. You've had kids of your own. And your family unit is one of the tightest family units I've ever seen. Is that an Italian thing or is that a you thing?
A little bit is an Italian thing, but mostly it's a Bible thing. You got to give them a long-term perspective in the world, and it's a glue that keeps people. It's like a symphony where everybody's playing a different instrument, but everybody's following the same conductor. That's what keeps everybody united. Mm-hmm. So if you get them all hooked on Jesus early, even though everybody's got different characters and goes in a completely different direction, Jesus kind of is the conductor of the family, and it keeps it sounding in an harmonious way. A bunch of people playing an instrument in different directions sounds like noise. Without that conductor, you just won't get togetherness and beauty and symphony at the same time.
Yes, so many aspects. Man, we could go down so many rabbit trails right now, but I do want to hit on this because I've realized subconsciously when I've been a chiropractor for 23 years. I take care of everybody, and I'm closer to the demographic of La Jolla. And then in my circles, I've taken care of a lot of pro athletes. And what I've seen different, I get a lot of trust fund babies. I think wealthy people I've shied away from because I saw so many jacked up families. So when I meet someone that has done well for themselves at a level not many people have gotten to with wealth, when I met your family, the craziest part about it was to me is they were so down to earth. They're not trust fund kids. They are kids that actually have a work ethic. They have a not entitlement. And I have kids that aren't even wealthy that are entitled. So I know you were doing something that I got to help people understand. What are you doing? You could say it's Jesus, but I know a lot of Christians that have Jesus per se, and their kids are off the rails, entitled, and they're not even at a fraction of where you're at. How do you instill work ethic in kids and crush entitlement, but still celebrate life the way you do?
It's funny when my kids grew up, they went to a school with a bunch of rich kids, and they're like, Dad, we're the poorest rich kids in there. Because everybody else is pulling up in a new car and an expensive car, and they're having to make payments on their car. So they come in with a $20,000 car that, I made them make a $200 payment on. I tell them, take 2 zeros off the price of the car, or 3 zeros, and that's what your monthly payment is. So they had to make that payment on that car. So everybody else is pulling up on a $100,000 car, and they're ashamed pulling up in their $20,000 car. So early on, we gave them the impression that, hey, wherever the flow is flowing, get used to going the other way. Get used to swimming upstream. If you want to be where everybody else is going, this religion is not for you. We swim upstream. We're in a world that is held by evil forces, and we're flowing the other way. So we let them know right away. If you're comfortable going with the flow, you're not really part of this philosophy. You're not part of this family. you're not going to prosper well with us. That's a competing philosophy to us. We like instilling something that if everybody's going left, the truth is probably right.
Yeah, it's amazing. I would see each of your kids when I talk to them. I love how they can engage.
They're always thinking critically because every time they're always looking for the angle. They're always looking for, wait a minute, where is this guy lying to me? We were born and raised Catholic, so I was sick when I was 7 or 8 years old, and there was a saint that you had to pray to get healed, and you had to rub the statue. And we were raised with, that's how you get healed, is by rubbing these statues and praying to these saints. And you're 7, 8 years old, you're doing it, and something's like, this doesn't feel really scientific. It doesn't feel like it works. This feels kind of silly. And then as you get older, you start reading the scriptures and you start comparing what you've been taught to what's been written. You're like, wow, I got to be a Berean. I got to check what I've been told. I can't just take everything at face value. So we teach our kids, when you go to school, you're on guard. And when they teach you something, you go home and check it. It's not that everything you hear is not true, but most of what you hear is not true. So you got to check it. You got to learn how to draw the line between what you know and what you don't know.
That's such great advice. Have you applied that in the business world?
Yes. People come up and say, this deal's, it makes, 8% return. Like, really? How do you know that? Based on what? Well, that's what the brochure says. Well, the brochure is written by a marketing agent that's trying to sell something to make a commission. He has no interest in proclaiming truth. He's got interest in proclaiming a commission for himself. So you have to check it. He's like, you're cynical, you're a doubter. No. We're lovers of truth, and truth is like a building. You have to build it on a solid foundation. If the foundation is solid, then you have to build the framing, and the framing is solid, then you put the roof. People start with the roof, and they don't check the framing, they don't check the slab, and then they're wondering why the roof leaks. So any aspect of truth, somebody tells you the building makes X amount of money per month, per year, what's that based on? How do you know that? And you become an expert at figuring out, this guy knows what he's talking about, or this guy's he's shooting from the hip, he's guessing, he doesn't really know. And you can immediately tell when somebody has foundational knowledge, or when somebody just heard it yesterday and just repeat it because I heard it, saw a YouTube video. Yeah. It's based on nothing.
Yeah, based on nothing. I'm doing that now, I'm trying to figure out, it's amazing. I call my dad. My dad was a land developer, and I call my dad going, Dad, I got this property. I want to do it. And he's like, oh, okay. And he'll tell me something. I'm like, Dad, I'm watching these YouTube videos, because I'm trying to learn. I don't want to have to go to my dad at my age and dang it. It's so.
Admit the dad knows stuff.
Dang it. But, it's a different world too than when he was doing it 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's just only got a little bit tougher. But there's so many people that I'm listening to that don't know what they're talking about, because the minute I go, okay, and then I go look, I'm like, okay, they're selling a program.
They're selling a program.
They're selling a program. I got to go to truth. Been grateful to get truth from you guys. So how do you explain, I would love to go, we're going to get back to family in a minute, because I love the way that you're raising your kids, but how did you start? What I love too is you have a best friend and you guys are partners in business.
Yes.
How did you guys work that out?
Yeah, people see that, you've been in a business relationship for, over 40 years. It's like, wow, I can't get along with anybody more than 2 years. How do you do it? And it's not that it's conflict free. The relationships grow because conflict is dealt with every time it comes. The storms do come. You just have to learn how to deal with them.
Yeah. The spiritual maturity.
There's a spiritual maturity, and that's always a function of law and grace. So you have to be very graceful towards the errors of others, whether it's your business partner, whether it's your wife, whether it's your kids. You have to be very graceful when there's the error of others, and you have to be very lawful with the errors of yourself. Jesus was the master of being the lion and the lamb, grace provider and law provider. He literally wrote the law. So if people tend to do it the other way, I tend to be very judgmental towards your sins, and I tend to cover mine with tons and tons of grace.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
So you have to flip the script. Take the beam out of your eye, and then we'll worry about the little speck in the other person's eye. If both parties apply that, relationships last forever, and they get better with time.
Honestly, yeah, to see how you guys operate, and you're so different.
And they're completely different. Yeah, I joke and quip. Says, one of us can read and one of us can write. So yeah, you don't want a relationship with somebody exactly like you.
Yeah.
Men and women are different. That's what makes beauty. That's what makes attraction to each other. The minute you make them the same, all attraction is gone.
But you got to have very similar core values.
Yes, it goes back to what we were saying about Jesus. Now, when you say a lot of people talk about Jesus, yeah, but tell them show me your Jesus. Jesus is now used in a way that means everything and nothing.
Yeah.
So when you say, show me your Jesus, tell me what your Jesus likes, tell me what your Jesus hates. And then you could immediately see if this is the same Jesus that's talked about in the Hebrew scriptures, or if it's something that's made up in their own mind. Because Jesus is such a rainbow of characteristics. You could easily cherry pick one or the other. Oh, he was very graceful towards that lady. He's very graceful towards a woman caught in adultery. So he's okay with me cheating on my wife. You can create a Jesus to any color you want.
Yeah.
Most statues or pictures of Jesus, he's a blonde, Norwegian-looking, long-haired hippie that has absolutely nothing to do with the Judean, lion that's coming back to rule in glory. So an idol is basically turning God into your image, and we're supposed to turn us into his image.
Yeah, so true.
We flip the script.
Yeah, it's amazing how we can get caught up in that. And that's just, people got to walk that out and have the right teachers and listen to the right things and not get caught up in the wrong theologies. But, one thing is, how did it happen? I know you were grinding it out. Let's just go back to early years. You were an entrepreneur. You had your close friend. You guys started on this thing. I know he was the sheriff. What were you doing?
I mean, I was going to school. The first thing we did together, we started a landscaping business. Now, our parents were both in real estate and construction. They were doing well. But again, they never gave us anything. They gave us opportunities to provide and work in the family business. So Dorian and I figured, hey, let's take the landscaping contract. These guys are spending $3,000 or $4,000 a month doing landscaping. We can do that. So Dad, his dad's like, hire us to do the landscaping maintenance. So we bought a lawnmower, and at 16 years old, he gets his driver's license first. And at lunchtime during high school, we drop off the equipment and the guys, and then at lunch, in the morning we drop off the equipment. At lunch we go and check up on the progress, make corrections. At 3:00, go back, pick up the crew and the equipment, and deal with what happened there. So while other kids were worrying about the football game, or we were thinking about, okay, are our guys really working? Did the lawnmower run out of gas?
Yeah.
We were running a business that it didn't make any money, but the responsibility is like, we didn't have a safety net.
Yeah.
Our parents never put a safety net around us. If that lawnmower didn't get picked up, then it didn't get picked up. That guy didn't get paid.
And that's at 16.
That's at 16.
So you were taking responsibility for life
Yeah.
at a young age.
Yeah, that really is the difference.
What do you think the drive was?
Well, it starts off with poverty and hunger. You know, my dad's got money, but I don't. My dad's got a nice car, but I don't. My dad can go and buy a nice meal at a restaurant, but I can't. So you start wanting some economic freedom. And
why aren't parents today teaching that?
Because it's a lot easier to just buy your kid something versus having him go through the struggle.
How do you do that with your kids? How do you do it with your kids?
Well, see, that's again grace
because
and law.
I know it's in there because, like your second eldest daughter.
Yes.
Yeah, she's about to get married.
Yes.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. I got her invitation in the mail, and I was like, "Oh my, this is the nicest invitation I've ever heard." And anyways, I went to congratulate her, and she goes, "Oh yeah. Let me tell you what a headache it was to get this." I think I she ticked off the wedding planner because she decided to go find it cheaper,
That's
do it
right.
on her way, found it Etsy. And I'm thinking to myself, that how cool is that? Because if daddy's fronting the bill,
Yeah.
she could have just gone with the expensive wedding planner that was telling her, no, you got to use my people. And it would have cost you an arm and a leg. But instead, she didn't like that price. She went on Etsy. It's one of the most beautiful wedding invitations I've ever seen. And yet,
she is spending my money, but it's as she's spending her own. What I told her was, I'll give you, I think it was a $250,000 budget for the wedding. Everything you spend above that, you have to pay for. Anything you spend below that, you get to keep. So in essence, now she's owning every dime she spends it like if it's her own. So she's got the limitations of, if I spend $1 here, I'm not going to have it over there. It's not an unlimited budget. And so she feels the constraints of making of something as beautiful as she can with that budget. And you say, well, it's not.
Is she the type, will she come negotiate with you?
No.
Dad, I need more.
No.
Dad, it's more expensive than I thought. I need $400.
Yeah, reality has to set in. At that point, it's like, no. And she'll know that asking is futile, so she won't bother. She's very thankful. It's a ton of money. She's very thankful. We've been to weddings that make ours look like we're the paupers. That's another thing we do. Sometimes we're the poorest guy in the room. Sometimes we're the richest guy in the room. Sometimes we're just like everybody else. We have a wide network in social circles where we go to a wedding in Dubai, and everybody's wearing $2-3 million worth of jewelry, and my kids they're the homeless people.
Well, that's how I feel hanging out with you.
Okay, well, so I tell them there's always somebody richer than you, there's always somebody poorer than you, and there's always somebody right around the same, and you need to learn how to respect all of them. Yeah,
that's amazing. What great! It was so good. And then the other day, I went to one of your properties, and your son was waiting tables.
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you. Let's go one notch deeper. How old was your son when you adopted him? And then that means he has to learn a family philosophy.
Exactly.
Knowing he's coming into somebody that has, I'm sure where he came from, a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
He came out of poverty, saved him from a world out of Ukraine.
The adopted son, we adopted him from Russia at 2 years old.
Oh, at 2.
The Ukrainian boy that we're fostering, he stayed with us when he was 10 years old, and he was a foreign exchange student, so he was only with us for 2 months. And then after he turned 18, we went back to Ukraine to look for him.
Okay. That's amazing.
So by the time we brought him into the United States, he was 20 years old. So he's only been with us, 2 years.
And so how do you ingrain a philosophy of, hey, this is all yours, to, no, you're going to work for it?
Yes, he went from literally sleeping on the streets, homeless. He had to steal, shoplift hats in the Adidas store to sell them to eat.
Wow.
So he went from that to living in a multi-million-dollar house, driving $100,000 cars, and so his lifestyle. Motorcycles.
Pick your garage.
Right. So he went from a very low standard of living to a very high standard of living. However, I've always said from the very get-go, even before we brought him into the house, that this is like the promised land of Israel. You follow the laws, the land will bless you. You don't follow the laws, this land will spit you out.
That'll preach.
Literally, God turns off the water in Israel. He evicts the people from the land that he gave him. He did it twice. So when you preach that to people, it's like, if God did it to the people he loved, this guy's crazy enough to do it to somebody that he loves.
That is brilliant. Wow.
See, my love is unconditional, but you living in my house is conditional.
Oh my gosh, now my head is down a whole nother rabbit trail. I hope this is helping some people. I mean, this is what people need to hear, because I've watched so many kids just get spoiled. And I'm watching, your kid doesn't have to work, but he does. He has to work.
He kind of does have to work.
He kind of does have to work, because that is the condition in which you are raising tough, resilient kids that in life, you can have nice things, but they're not free.
Yeah, the conflict, the grit. The reason why God allows you to live in this world where the wheat and the tares are growing up at the same time, He's using the conflict to build your character.
Yeah.
If we remove all conflict from our kids and put a pillow every time they get into a fight at school, you go over there and take care of it. Every time they have a need, you take care of it. If you remove all adversity, they never develop character.
Yeah, well, I saw him working at the restaurant, and I'm thinking to myself, look at the joy.
He's happy.
He's happy. He was working. There was no entitlement like, oh, Robert's making me work. Oh, I have to be here. You didn't feel that energy. He was gladly serving and loving and so friendly. I'm thinking to myself, man, I remember when my uncle gave me a job at our restaurants. I was the same way. I didn't feel like, my mom owns this restaurant with my uncle. Like I can, every once in a while I felt like I had to play that card. Like, you can't fire me. You know what I mean? But I realized that I watched so many kids like, I'm not working there. I'm not doing that.
They despise the family business. They despise the janitor. It's like, oh, now that we're the boss, I'm never going to do all that.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be served.
How do you weed that out?
Because we teach that serving is actually where the growth is. We tell them, look, being a waiter is absolutely essential. You learn how to serve. You're only going to be a waiter for 3 months. And after that, I'm going to put you to another job that you don't know how to do. So as soon as they get good at the job, we bounce them. So they're constantly under pressure. They're constantly under, like, I don't really know what I'm doing today. But they know that my heart is to make them grow. And they know that learning how to overcome adversity in their own merit turns them into more competent beings that they want to become. And they see the end game, and so they invest. It's like, you go to school for 4 years because you know the value of the degree.
Yeah.
If you don't trust the value of the degree, you're not going to sit there and plow through it. Yeah. So as long as I show them that, hey, the Ukrainian boy, he was asked from one of our neighbor friends who really likes him to help him move. And one of the things that was in this guy's house was his safe, which had tons of guns and gold. And he's moving, $500,000 worth of gold bars in his truck, unsupervised. So after he's done moving and now he's at the new house, he's putting the stuff into the new safe. He tells the guy, by the way, do you know that I've been in jail twice for stealing? And the guy goes, no, I had no idea. I would have never guessed that about you. Because his past life, even though it provided the pain and the grit, he was able to learn from the good of it and dump off the bad.
Yeah, and he was stealing out of necessity for survival.
Yes, but I actually confronted him on that. I go, when did your life start turning around? He goes, my life started turning around when I was about to give up. I was literally chewing God out. It's like everything, my life has been terrible, and I need help, and I can't do it on my own. And if you don't help me, I'm thinking about ending it. He gave up.
Wow.
That's what changed it. I go, you see, you were doing things on your own, and you were bitter that you didn't have parents, and you were bitter about your circumstances. You were blaming everything and everybody. You were blaming your family, your country, your school, your foster care lady's not good, and your teacher didn't treat you right. The fault is everybody else's. The minute that you changed it and says, God, I need help. Wow. What should I do differently? Now look. See, he
came and plucked him right out of there. Of all the people in the world you could have picked, God went and just highlighted him. Yeah. And now look at his life, a different trajectory.
Yeah. And he sees that God's the one that's doing it. I'm just a little employee that's God's using. But his relationship is direct to God. That's what changed his life. Wow. And that's what makes him so trustworthy now. That when he said that, everybody's laughing and it became a joke.
Yeah. So I take it he didn't steal the gold bars.
No.
But so let me ask you now. Let's go down because the latter part of this, we're going to talk business and life. But I want to ask the sacred cow. I have a 12-year-old daughter. And I probably live a way more outspoken life, and I'm nowhere near your level. But meaning you're very humble, family. I'm a pastor, preacher. I'm politically involved. In chiropractic. So I'm out there. Probably taking heat on the front level for lifestyle or whatever. I'd rather just live it quietly. I'm trying to redefine that. But how do you, sacred cow moment, your family's beautiful, your daughter's beautiful. How do you know when the boys are coming, they see the wealth, they see a pretty girl, how as a dad do you vet that?
How do you vet out the gold diggers?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a fear. It comes with beauty and it comes with wealth. Job's daughters, they were rich and they were beautiful.
Yep.
Well, look at Jesus. Jesus is rich and beautiful. So what does he do? He shows up to the planet and he dumps the wealth, he dumps the beauty, starts riding a donkey, and he sees who falls in love with me when I'm in my donkey clothes. Who falls in love with me based on my character? So he actually shrouds his power and his wealth and his beauty, and he shows up as an ordinary guy and just doesn't really do anything. He just talks. Son. He doesn't even write a book. He's just the carpenter's son.
Yeah. And do you teach your girls this?
I teach my girls that if anybody is chasing you for the way you look and your money, that there's no character there, there's no depth, because you're not going to look like this forever, and money comes and money goes. So you got to see, what is it about you that he's attracted to? And once you get into the character nature of basically loving human beings, once you're a loving human being, you should be able to see if they are.
Yeah.
How do they treat somebody who's poor and ugly?
Yeah. How you treat the barista matters. How you treat.
Yeah. But you talk about the motorcycles. Well, we have motorcycles that are $50,000 and we have motorcycles that are $2,000. So if I see that the kid is only washing and cleaning and taking care of the tire pressure of the $50,000 one, he's not going to ride any of them. It's like, you don't love motorcycles. You love the exclusivity, the snobbiness of going to Cars and Coffee in the morning and showing everybody that you got this new expensive bike. That's what you're in it for. You're not passionate about motorcycles, because otherwise you would put air in the tire of the small motorcycle.
I feel like you're in my head. This is the exact conversation I just had with my boy, with my littlest. My middle boy. I watch how he helps me everywhere. My littlest one hasn't picked that up, but he always wants a new toy like Maverick. But Maverick is meticulous. So I end up getting him a new razor because he took such good care of his.
Right.
So Marimary's like, Dad, when I get one, I'm like, you don't even take care of the one you got.
That's right. And you're not going to get another one.
No.
Whether it's your heavenly father, or whether it's your earthly father, or whether it's your employer.
Stewardship.
Yeah. Nobody feels like giving the new toy to the guy who just broke his old one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, that's such great advice. And I think, it's so helpful to see how you communicate with your kids. Do you guys have family dinner, or what do you, in a busy world, how do you stay connected?
When they were little, we homeschooled them. The oldest one we homeschooled till, I think, 7th grade. The youngest we homeschooled till 2nd or 3rd. So as they got older, we pushed them out sooner. It's not that we have a group meetings. It's more caught than taught. We look for ways of thinking. When they say something that is socialistic, well, you bought her that, when do I get mine? I go, well, just because you said that, you will never, ever get it. Because
you stick to that?
Yeah, I treat all my kids absolutely different. Yeah. I go out of my way not to treat them the same. If I give one daughter a ring, the other one gets a necklace.
Where's my wife? I need my wife to hear this.
And the other one gets nothing. So, the idea that inheritance is divided equally, nonsense.
All right. I know it's never easy, but we are going to cut this one right here, and there will be a part 2. So stay tuned. Don't miss it. Part 2 is coming out. This is such gold. I don't want you to miss any of it. For those of you taking notes or leaning in right now, hey, my suggestion is rewatch this episode. There is nothing but gold in it, and stay tuned for part 2 coming soon.